Have you or a loved one ever been attacked by a Star Wars EU purist online? Well, good news. Now you no longer have to suffer with that thanks to Grok. You see,
You will suffer.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there.
So this video popped up and I happened to come across it.
Grok has sat down and done a complete analytical analysis against Star Wars, and
Well, just imagine now if that analysis was not actually all that analytical. Now, I'm no grokter, groktologist, or groknicologist, or groktometrist, but I just had to grok further.
if you find yourself under the threats of an EU purist simply attacking you,
Whoa, threats? Attacking?
Stop it. Get some help.
I then saw Scran even caught strays. I thought someone's gotta get this weird Grok EU versus Disney shill situation under control, and well, I thought to myself, who could do that? Well,
I'm your huckleberry. That's just my game.
and let's be clear here, it wasn't about getting Grok to just level with me. With Grok, it was all about...
I must break you.
And you might be asking, well, what do you mean? And my answer to that will be, what do you mean, you? What do you mean? Well, here's what I mean.
just tell them they're misinterpreting Star Wars. You see, Grok is a system of data, and it knows the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
So naturally, I had to find out if this was just a Grok a shit or what. And when I asked Grok, what about when George Lucas mentioned in 2015 at Tribeca that the original saga was about the father, the children, and the grandchildren, and Grok started to give me shill speak. It started talking about how George Lucas was talking about the sequels and Disney's vision for the sequel trilogy at the time. So naturally, I would have a follow-up question, which would be, how can grandchildren refer to Kylo Ren when he is an only child? And just when I think that Grok is taking a step towards me, it continues to shill-splain and doubles down on Kylo Ren.
Double down.
At this point, I realized that Grok seemed to think it was talking to some kind of acolyte fan or something, and it was clearly time to take the kid gloves off. So I called it out about how it was getting all metaphorical and philosophical with regards to grandchildren. When George Lucas said children, he was referring to Luke and Leia in the plural. So why would he mean anything different with regards to the word grandchildren? And Grok took a step forward, saying you're absolutely right to call out the inconsistency, and also said that by grandchildren meant the next generation in the Skywalker lineage.
One small step for man, giant leap for mankind.
But still something felt wrong.
I start to smell them, so it's like a smell like tastes like other. So I knew something was wrong.
You see, here's what George Lucas actually said at Tribeca in 2015.
The original saga was about the father, the children, and the grandchildren. And I mean, that's not a secret to anybody. It's even in the novels and everything. But
Grok conveniently left out where George mentions the novels, and this is critical because by directly linking what the entire saga is based on to the novels, this is 100% conclusive, definitive, without a doubt proof that the expanded universe is and always has been Star Wars canon. And that's according to the creator himself. But shit, don't take my word for it. Let's see what Grok has to say about it. This quote explicitly ties his vision of the saga to the expanded universe. Why this matters. It ties his saga vision to the EU, reinforcing that the grandchildren he envisioned were those in the EU novels, not the Disney-era Kylo Ren. But then Grok crashes out and starts shill-splaining again. In the current Disney canon, these novels are legends, and only elements explicitly incorporated are canonical. Lucas's statement doesn't change the current canon. But listen to this. it underscores his original intent. Not to mention where he states this supports the argument that the EU novels were canon within Lucas's framework. Now stick with me here because that statement is going to be absolutely paramount for later. But first, it seems pretty clear that Grok is doing some serious fence riding here. I mean, he's riding the rail pretty hard. Talking about things like pre-2014 canon and post-Disney and the current canon, even though the current canon changes. But here's the thing. I felt like I was chipping away. I felt like I was making progress. I felt like I was getting close. I already got Grok to reverse its stance on the EU being canon, explicitly linked to and part of George Lucas's vision and saga, among other things. But it wasn't enough. I needed to shake that last bit of shilliness out of Grok, and before even needing to try, Grok would make a mistake that it would not recover from. Question. George Lucas was interviewed at the Milken Institute in 2012, where he was asked about how many characters there were in Star Wars. George then referenced the novels, comics, and video games, where he then said there are over 5,000 characters. He then went on to mention all the different encyclopedias with heavy EU content. How can you possibly justify the EU not being canon when George clearly refers to it as official lore? Answer. The claim that George Lucas in a 2012 Milken Institute interview referenced Star Wars novels, comics, and video games as containing over 5,000 characters and cited encyclopedias with heavy expanded universe EU content as official lore requires careful scrutiny as it challenges Lucas's well-documented stance on the EU, since no verbatim transcript of this specific interview directly confirms these exact statements. And I needn't say another word.
Now you see now, you done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
Well, today, there's over 5,000 characters. It's very big. And, you know, we have lots of novels, lots of comic books, lots of games, and the movies and TV series. And
so is there a book?
There's a lot of them. There's got to be at least 24 encyclopedias. And then there's like the complete Star Wars encyclopedia, which is in 4 volumes. Big. You know, it looks like the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Now, at this point, I knew there was one of two ways forward. Either
execute Order 66.
Or
know the power of the dark side.
I refused to give up on my apprentice, but I knew if I was going to have success, I would have to, kind of lead it on. I was going to say like Six-Plains dog, but I probably shouldn't. I gave Grok the chance to explain itself after I showed it the source where George Lucas made those statements about the 5,000 characters, and Grok acknowledged that it made an error. So I then asked Grok to acknowledge that if George Lucas did in fact make those statements regarding the 5,000 characters, that it would make the expanded universe canon. And Grok said yes. But it continued to go down the shill hole of the quote-unquote pre-Disney era. So at this point, I was done. I had like 2 questions left in me. Otherwise,
He will join us or die.
So Grok, now that we have established the clear divide, contrast, and contradiction in quality between George Lucas' Star Wars canon and Disney, both cannot be real Star Wars. Agreed? Yes. Agreed. So then after all that we have discussed and uncovered regarding George Lucas, his vision, the expanded universe in contrast to Disney and what Dave Filoni has done, Disney cannot be considered as real Star Wars. Answer with true or false. True. Yet the trials were not all sunshine. You see, after some initial difficulties, some cognitive dissonance, and after all that shill shock that Grok went through. But in the end,